Good afternoon. My name is Bob Searles, and I have the honor to serve this city as Fire Chief. And on behalf of the City of Mentor, I want to thank you for coming today, swearing in today. I know that the All-Star game got a lot of hype. Media's covered it, but I think this is a pretty important ceremony here today. And I want to especially thank those who have traveled from out of town to be here today. So we're going to open today's ceremony with prayer. And I'd like to invite Deacon Bryce to the podium to lead us in prayer.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for gathering us here today to accept these men who have offered themselves in service to the community. Also, their families who have agreed that this is a wonderful thing to do. It's only with your blessing that we can do these wonderful things and help keep people safe. And so we ask you, Lord, to instill in these men and in their families the gifts of wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and fortitude. Guide them and guard them in all that they do, as we ask this in the name of Christ your Son, our Lord. Amen.
I'd like to begin by thanking the retired officers, especially the chief officers that came today. I know Chief Brewer and Chief Harvey are with us today. They laid the foundation of this department, and there will always be an indebtedness for them for their hard work. I'd also like to thank all the retired officers that came here today, as well as our neighboring public safety officials. In Lake County and the surrounding areas, we have an outstanding public safety delivery system, and that's a huge credit to our neighbors that are willing to come and help us when we need help. I'm honored to be a part of that system. I'd also like to acknowledge Police Chief Ken Gunch. Ken Gunch is special to us because we have such a close working relationship. And I know, Chief, you just sworn some new officers in. You have a new staff. And we look forward to the continued relationship that we have with Mentor Police Department. You know, we get along with all the city departments, but police and dispatch are pretty special to us. So Nina, thank you for those services too. I also want to mention that retired Deputy Chief Joe Busher is here. He's now the EMA Director of Lake County, and I want to thank him and Teresa for taking time out to come here, as well as retired Deputy Chief Telcott. They're both involved in the county on a high level, and we appreciate all that you do. Today wouldn't be possible without the support of many, so I have to give some shout outs before we move on with the ceremony. I want to thank the Civil Service Commission for the fine job they did with the promotional testing and the overseeing of the process. And Sharon Gladdy is here. Sharon, maybe you can stand up. I'll put you on the spot. She does an amazing job because whenever we do promotional testing, she's responsible for all of it. And she prepares all the documents for the commission to review and make their decisions on. So outstanding job, thank you. I need to thank Annette Crocker, Beth, Jerry Craddock, and the duty crew for getting this set up today. And I also want to thank our membership for everything they do in our department. Our recent promotional testing was the largest in our department history. At each rank, the competition was profound. It was fierce. And the test scores were very high. Some of our candidates had some of the highest test scores in the state. I think that's a positive reflection on the very good people that this city hires. And I want to thank all the candidates for competing in the process, to doing that extra to try to make our city better, to fulfill a leadership role. The process isn't easy. It's a huge commitment. And the candidates made that commitment. And our department is moving forward because of the foundation and the work of these guys over here and the rest of our body. But each one of these guys will tell you that they couldn't be here today without your support, family and friends. It's huge. You know, our job isn't easy, and sometimes we need that support. Mr. Keidel's there, and I had a privilege of meeting him. And I know that that apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and I know where Tommy gets his character, so thank you. Now it's my pleasure to introduce my boss, the city manager of the City of Mentor and Public Safety Director, Mr. Ken Flipak, to say a few words and to introduce some important people. Mr. Flipak.
Thank you, Chief. This is where somebody arranges for the alarm to go up when the suits get up here so that we get off the stage quickly. I just want to say that this is a really great day for our city. It's always so fantastic to be able to see new leadership take hold in the department that has such a long tradition of fantastic leadership, starting with Chief Brewer, Chief Harvey, and now, of course, Chief Searles, who's done a fantastic job. The fire department in Mentor is among the most elite in the state of Ohio. We like to think of ourselves as the top department in Northeast Ohio. And that doesn't happen by accident. That starts with the contribution of each of our firefighters, part-time and full-time, all of our officers, and all the residents, and it starts right at the top with our city council. So I want to introduce two city councilmen that are here with us today. Council President John Krieger. John, if you want to stand up. And Councilman Ray Kirchner. And I think it's safe to say for decades our council has stood by this department, provided the resources that we need to do the job correctly for our residents. And you give that right back in terms of making us look fantastic with the service that you provide to the community. So I want to offer my congratulations to the gentleman sitting to my right here. As the chief said, this is a rigorous process, but it's an important one. This department grows leaders. And as you can see by this crop of individuals ascending in rank, they've worked hard. You know, I'm particularly pleased by the fact that both Ryan and Chad were two of my very first hires when I started with the city almost 10 years ago. So it tickles me to be able to see these young men groomed into leaders of the future here. And to those incoming firefighter paramedics, you need look no further than the people sitting in front of you there to look for examples of what to follow and how to serve this community. So the last thing I'll say here today is that one thing that we all stand behind, both as a community, as a department, as city leaders, is our commitment to service. Service that not only serving our people to keep them safe, to do the basic things, you know, fighting fires and meeting injuries and illnesses and people who are at their most vulnerable state, but going beyond that, you know, taking the time to actually show how much we care about the people that we serve here, taking the time to, you know, make a child or a parent or a grandparent feel comfortable when they're at their most vulnerable state. That's what sets us apart. We will always provide the resources. That's what our job is as an administration. It's your job to translate to the public just how much we care, and you've done it for decades, and we're proud. We couldn't be any prouder of the work that this department does. We wish our new crop of hires and new leaders the best, and we have full confidence.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to introduce Deputy Fire Chief Ron Zach and ask him to join me up here. Ron, can you come up, please? We're going to introduce our newly appointed officers. We're going to tell you a little bit about them as we start the important part of this ceremony. And I'll start with newly promoted Deputy Chief Bob Evans. Bob, can you come up, please? Just 2 years ago we were doing this. We were promoting Bob to Battalion Chief, and he's back. And I think he even looks younger than he did a couple years ago, but that'll change when it comes to administration. He's going to be a great addition to fire administration. And we've been out without Joe for 7 months, so Ron and I think, are going to take a well-deserved vacation right after we appoint Bob. September will mark the 26th year of service with the Mentor Fire Department for Bob. And for those keeping score, that's 4 years longer than you've been married to your wonderful wife, Dawn. Bob is solid. He is well respected in this community. and he's becoming a staple amongst the community. And I'm looking forward to his efforts to strengthen the relationship that we have with his community because he is so well respected in the community. For the past 2 years, Bob has served as shift commander on A shift, and prior to that, he served as lieutenant at Station 5 on C shift for 15 years. I'm sure he misses that, where he developed a lot of good guys and had a lot of good respect earned from those guys. He has an associate degree in fire and emergency service, and just this year he graduated from Lake County Leadership's signature class as a leader in this community. He's a member of the Fire Investigative Unit, and he has completed Fire Officer 1 and 2, and he has hit the ground running as Deputy Chief. And I'd like him to introduce his family and friends with him here today.
Thank you, Chief. I'd like to introduce my wife, Dawn. My sons, Anthony and Joseph. My father, Richard. My stepfather, Al, is in the back. My mother-in-law, Mary. Her boyfriend, Tim. My brother-in-law, Tim, and Dina. Sister-in-law, Dina. Their kids, Ethan, Mason, Jillian, Peyton. Kelsey is here, my niece, and her husband, Jeff, and their newborn son, Colton, is here. And I apologize if I miss anybody, but they didn't stand up. Oh, CJ is here as well, Dawn's cousin. Thank you. And my longtime buddy from school, Mike Merton, who's also a retired police officer here for the city.
Next is newly promoted Battalion Chief Tommy Keidel. Tommy, can you come up, please? Bob and Ron, we might want to sit down because the list that Tommy gave me of his credentials is huge. I mean, he's done a lot. Tom has been with our department since 2002. That's 15 and a half years. He was promoted to Fire Lieutenant on June 20th, 2011. He's a fire instructor, fire inspector, EMS instructor, fire investigator, hazmat, safety off, a whole bunch of other things. But I want to take this moment to sincerely thank Tommy for his leadership of the president of our fire union and that time that he served as vice president. You know, I am so proud of this fire department. And as the manager said, I think their service delivery, the delivery of service that the men and women do, is second to none in the area. And a huge reason for that is the support that we get from the community, city administration, and city council. But it's the men and women that make this department. And Tommy's been union president since just after I was appointed fire chief. And he did an incredible job leading the men and women of this department and working with administration. And as he's being promoted to battalion chief, he's stepping down from that role. And I just want to publicly thank him for the service that he has given to this community and his willingness to work with this administration, and I'd like to applaud him for that. Thank you. After meeting Tom's parents, I can see why his character is so strong. And just to give you a brief summary of Tom's department involvement, amongst other things, he's a hazmat team leader. He does our IT. He's our IT administrator within the department, and he's advanced us quite a bit. He's part of the honor guard. He's a fire investigator, and he's on our hiring committee, and he's made some good suggestions and choices there to make our department better. And at this time, I'd like Tom to introduce his family and friends.
Thanks. I'd like to introduce my wife, Carla. My children, Nicholas, Anthony, and Alana. My parents, Tom and Pam Keidel. My brother-in-law, Mike Petty, and his girlfriend, Kristen. Mike's also a fire lieutenant with the city of Warrensville Heights. And my mother-in-law, Tony Petty, and my father-in-law, Jeff Petty. Thanks.
You ready, Ryan? Next is newly promoted Fire Lieutenant Ryan Blessick. Ryan, can you come up, please? Ryan began his service with the Mentor Fire Department in December of 2005 as a part-time firefighter. He was then hired by Shaker Heights Fire as a career firefighter in the spring of 2007. And unfortunately, he was laid off by Shaker Fire in spring of 2009. The good part of that is we were able to bring him back, and we hired him in May of 2010, and we're glad to be promoting him today to Fire Lieutenant. He's going to be a good one. Ryan is a fire safety inspector. He's involved in a number of things, including public education, hazmat, and he took the initiative to complete fire officer training on his own, and I want to thank him for that. I'd like you to introduce your family and friends here today, Ryan.
With me today, I have my mother, Toby. Please stand. Thank you. My wonderful grandmother, we call her Tata. Thanks, Tata. My Uncle Mike. My Aunt Menna. And my Uncle Mark as well, over there taking some video. Thank you for joining me today.
Next is newly promoted Fire Lieutenant Chad Roland. Chad, can you come up and can you stay on this side with me here? Newly promoted Lieutenant Chad Roland ran his first fire yesterday as a lieutenant, and he did okay. The good news is the fire went out. The bad news is there's nothing left of the shed. But fortunately, there's a nice wide open space that they can rebuild another one at. So, no, Chad did a great job with his crew yesterday. We had a shed fire, it had a heavy fuel load, and it extended to the house. And what Chad and his crew did is keep the fire from extending to the attic, and they did a great job. And I want to thank them for that. Thank you. You can join those other guys over there. Chad started as a part-time firefighter in Mentor in November 2006. Then he went to East Lake Fire in 2009. And like Ryan, we're glad to have him back. We stole him back in 2010. Chad is on the dive team. He's a fire safety inspector, and he's now assigned to Station 4, and we're looking forward to good things from him. Chad, can you introduce your family and friends?
So my wife, Kimberly, my daughter, Alexis, my son, Michael, my brother, Wes, his kids, Benjamin and Ray, my father, Chuck, my stepmother, Tina, and my mom, Bonnie.
These are the promoted officers of our department. I'm going to ask Deputy Chief Ron Zach to come in and introduce our new hires. Ron?
Thank you, Chief. Mike Fair, can you step up? Mike Fair is a graduate of Mentor High School, year 2013. He served as a Mentor Fire Explorer during his high school for approximately 3 years. After high school, Mike attended John Carroll University for about a year, but the experience here as an explorer and with the members of this department kept calling him back to be a firefighter. Mike completed his fire education in 2014 and paramedic in 2016. We hired Mike in the fall of 2016, and he has recently completed his dive rescue certification and a member of our dive team. Mike's supervisor has praised him for his abilities as a pump operator at a recent structure fire where he operated well. He also located a victim performing search and rescue in a mutual aid fire we had. Mike also has 3 confirmed rescues of 3 seagulls and a duck. So we're all pleased when Mike took the test and scored number 1. Mike has been an asset to us part-time and as a dependable part-timer, and we look forward to him being an asset to us full-time. Thank you, Mike. You can introduce your family.
And with me today is my lovely wife, Rachel, my cousin, Taylor, my mom, Rachel, my dad, Mike, my grandpa, Greg, and grandma, Roseanne. Thank you all for coming today.
Patrick, can you step up? This is Patrick Nolan, his bio. In 2007, He graduated from Black River High School in Sullivan, Ohio, which is in Ashley County. He attended Hocking Tech for 2 years, where he studied wildlife and fishery ecology. Patrick's worked for National Park Service and Ohio Division of Wildlife, and for the last 7 years, he's worked as a tree climber, trimmer, and became a foreman for Davy Tree Company. Patrick has a history in the fire service. His father's a lieutenant in the North Ridgeville Fire Department. His uncle's a lieutenant in the North Ridgeville Fire Department, and he has another uncle that's a captain in the Elyria Fire Department. So Patrick always had a calling to the fire service, and he wanted something a little more rewarding and challenging. And coincidentally, he happened to be trimming trees up at the Cleveland Clinic property, and he ran into a couple of one of our engine companies, and they started a conversation, and that's what was the final straw that broke the camel's back, and he went all in. And then he completed his paramedic and firefighter training in 2018. He works for the Thompson Volunteer and Chester Fire Departments part-time. After Patrick's interview here, we knew he'd be a great fit. He has life experience, desire, dedication, drive, and appreciation for this job. He asked if he can, even during the interview, he asked if we didn't consider him because he didn't have any experience, if we'd hire him part-time. So he was all in. 2 quick comments on Patrick. Recently, we had a storm blow through Menor. We had a tree in the house, we had branches in the streets and the driveways, and once we got the residents taken care of and all the hazards abated, I asked the crews if they can kind of clear the street and driveways, and of course, Patrick looks up and he's all in, and yes sir, we're ready to go, and within minutes, limbs are flying and branches are being dragged across the street, so he's running like his Davy Tree crew. So that was phenomenal. And the other thing is, whenever I receive an email from Patrick, he always has he ends it with he'd like to thank everybody in fire administration, the city manager's office for the opportunity, and it's the best job he's ever had, and he looks forward to a long career. So.
So first and foremost, if I could have my wife, Carly, stand up. And that one you've been hearing the whole time is my daughter, Charlotte. She's 7 months old. Now, if I could have everybody else that came with me stand up all at once, because I will miss you if I don't. So I'll just start over here. I've got my in-laws, Teresa and Ashley. My mom, June. I have my Uncle Rick, again, Fire Lieutenant in North Ridgeville. My dad. I have my Uncle David. And then starting over here, I have my Aunt Shar. She's, the names, they line up. My cousin Isabel. My grandmother, Emma, my Aunt Debbie, and then my other set of grandparents, Bev and Bud Borman. So I just want to thank everybody that had anything to do with me getting to this point today.
Sam, can you step up? This is Sam Berdani. He's a graduate of Kirtland High School. In high school, Sam played football for 4 years, went to state twice. He's also an explorer here for the Menor Fire Department. After high school, Sam wanted to follow in his brother's footsteps. Josh, who's a lieutenant in Lakewood, and his brother Ben, who works in Madison, which were his role models. Sam completed his firefighter and paramedic certification back in 2016 and became a Madison part-timer and Menor Fire part-timer, where he's worked as one of our dependables. Sam's supervisors praised him for his motivation and desire to train to become a more well-rounded firefighter paramedic. Sam's very excited and has a great attitude toward his job, and he has exceptional cooking abilities. Sam has an interest within the department of our honor guard and joining the dive team. If you want to introduce your family.
I guess we'll start in the back. Cammy, go ahead and stand up. You can start. It's Cammy, my brother Ben's fiance. You could also stand up. Jesse's sitting next to him, co-worker Madison. Stand up. And then Brad also sitting next to him, which is Cammy's father. And then second row here, my father Mark, mom Karen, beautiful girlfriend April, my nephew Aiden, my nephew Ashton, and my brother Josh's fiance, or wife Diane. he could not be with us today due to being on shift in Lakewood. But thank you all for coming.
And lastly, Roland. This is Roland Patchinger. Roland's a graduate of Mentor High School, 2012. Mentor Explorer, 2008, 2000. So you can kind of see the pattern here, you know, explorers and part-timers. It's kind of like our farm team for baseball. We all knew Roland had a great work ethic. We all knew that he'd be a firefighter somewhere, someday. He was always hanging around the fire stations, doing ride time and socializing with the guys. His grandfather, Roland Scott, retired after 45 years of the fire department, serving as a part-time battalion chief. In 2013, we hired Roland as a part-time firefighter. And in 2015, he was taken away to Independence Fire full-time, and while he still maintained working here part-time. While in Independence, Roland acquired the following certifications in rescue: structural collapse, confined space, trench rescue, and rope rescue. He's also a member of the area's Southwest Emergency Response Team. For the past year, Roland's taught continuing ed through Lake Health at local fire departments. His interests include the technical rescue team, for obvious reasons, and our prestigious honor guard. So now in 2019, Roland's back and he wants to serve the community he's lived in his whole life. So if you want to introduce your family.
So back I have my mother, Pam Patchinger, godmother, Claudia Spiegel, father, Frank Patchinger, sister, Monis Patchinger, basically a sister, Leah Sekowski, and then my other sister, Marissa Patchinger, and then behind them is my uncle, Gene Scott, and then my aunt, Norma Winter.
There are some good fire departments in this region, and I'm kind of honored by the fact that some members of those departments are willing to give up their seniority and come back to work for the city of Mentor. And I'm glad that we have you guys. Thank you. Now it's my distinct privilege to introduce Honorable Judge Trebitz. Judge, can you come up, please? The officers being sworn in today should be honored to have Judge Trebitz administer their oath of office. He's a true public servant, and every time that we have one of these events, he's here, and he has a special place in my heart for the way that he serves our communities and the compassion and understanding that he has. And it's a pleasure to have him here today, and I'd like to offer the podium to Judge Trebitz so he can say a few words before his oath of office. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's always an honor and a privilege to be here, and especially today when I got notice, all I saw was Bob Evans. And I'm thinking, oh man, some more to eat. And, no, but I think it's wonderful that I see police and fire here and the councilman and everyone. You know, it's just great. We have a great community. We are so darn fortunate. And we have a level that is not just good. Our level is to be the best. That's what we're here for. That's what we want to be. And to the gentlemen that are getting their promotions, you're the leaders. And I had the honor of swearing in some other police officers that were promoted. And there's two things you have to do, and there's two things that make you the best. You got to be the hardest workers, and you got to care. And I checked things out. Matter of fact, Bob, I talked to your good buddy Merton. He gave you a thumbs up, and thanks. And I think that's very important. And I checked around because I don't deal as much with the fire department, and everybody said, these guys are gold. So we're going to hold you to that standard. And to our newbies, congratulations. You know, to all the families and friends, you know, congratulations to you all, because I know the sacrifice that's made. I paid attention here, you know, and I know that there's a lot of firefighters and the families, and it's something that's moving on. And what a great tradition, what a great thing to serve, service above self. And that's what we expect from you, gentlemen. And we expect you to be the best, because you know what? One day you're going to be over there, maybe being the leaders. So that's what we expect from you. So again, I want to thank everybody, and let's do this. Everybody ready? Please raise your right hand. I state your name. Solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and observe the provisions of the Charter and ordinances of the municipality of Mentor, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all duties incumbent upon me as state your position of the Mentor Fire Department, Lake County, Ohio, to the best of my ability and understanding. Congratulations.
There's a tradition in the fire service, and it's the pinning of the badge. And I'd like the officers and the newly hired to call on that person that they chose to pin their badge on to come up and pin their badge. We're going to close the formal part of our ceremony, but before we do, I just ask you to take a look around and take a look at this room and understand what this means to our department. This is the future, and I know Chief Gunch has a new staff, and we're going to continue to serve this city well to pick up where Chief Proer and Chief Harvey and Chief Talcott, Deputy Chief Bush are those that came before us, and the way they left us. We're here to make it better. So that's my challenge to you guys. And we're going to close. Be safe. Stay around, get a tour of the station. There's cake and refreshments. And be safe. Thank you.